Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, now is a good time, more than any other time, to really look at yourself, look at your playing habits, look at the games you're playing, and ask yourselves, are you playing the game, or is the game playing you? Now, we've got an article pulled up from Games Radar. When I was growing up, games were designed to be fun, not manipulative. Path of Exile co-creator shines a black light on the BS design tricks infesting all my live service games. Saw this article, saw a few videos on YouTube talking about this. It's called Dark Patterns. It is a psychological, relatively deceptive trick that developers for video games use in their games, particularly live service games, to force player retention, bad money spending habits, all that stuff. Basically, they're using your own psychology against you to really rack up the amount of players that have in their game concurrently, consistently, and also trying to force more money out of your pockets and into their pockets. I think this is a very important topic, and this is, funny enough, a topic that I've been harking back to for the longest time, but not really under this umbrella of, you know, this act called a dark pattern. Dark pattern just means the psychological trick, but we know exactly what they are. We have multiple examples that we go through over the course of this video, and also I want to point out that the developer Chris Wilson, the guy Grinding Gear Games co-founder and Path of Exile co-creator Chris Wilson, he uploaded a video, 16 minutes and 53 seconds. I'll put the link in the description down below. I'd really recommend you guys check out that video. He goes through all of it. He knows exactly what he's talking about. It's actually a very in-depth video, really quick for the amount of content that he covers. It's actually really, really good. But no, this is something that we've all experienced with any live service game. You could take a look at anything. It could be Counter-Strike, it could be Overwatch, it could be Dota, it could be League of Legends, it could be virtually anything. And what you'll find is a common thread amongst all those live service games where they'll have monetization options in there. Some may be a little bit more passive, meaning it's there, you can spend your money if you want. Others might try to force you with tricks like FOMO, fear of missing out. So they might be time-limited events. They might be specifically the time-limited events. I can hark back to Valorant, which has been just the biggest irk that I've had with the game, is that they'll release a skin set for a bunch of different weapons in the game, and it'll only exist for maybe a week, and then it'll be gone forever in quotation marks. That sense of FOMO is a manipulative structure that they've implemented in the game to force players to buy it because you'll never see those skins again. And that is something that I've staunchly disagreed with. And I'm probably not the only one, and there are many games that do this. So I've got a list, and before we go through that, I want to take a look at some quotes that they took from the video into this particular article. Yeah, one in particular, I hate all this BS. I mean, honestly, same. Games were designed to be fun, like he says, and when you play these live service games where it's less so on the game being good, and that should draw retention more than anything. Like, for instance, right now, everyone's playing Arc Raiders. I can't put the game down, honestly. I think it's a lot of fun, and there's nothing about the game on a monetization side that is forcing me to come back, and there's no login rewards and login events. That's another manipulative tactic that especially a game like Genshin Impact likes to use. A lot of these gacha games, don't get me started on that. Can't stand a game that has gacha. If it's got gacha, pretty much I'm out of there. Can't stand it. And that sort of game has a high retention. Like, let's take a look at the retention right now. We just took a look at it not too long ago. 313,000 concurrent players. So, like, the game is doing exceedingly well, and it's the merit of the game that is drawing people more back into it. There's not, you guys might be able to point something out that I'm kind of overlooking in terms of a dark pattern inside a game like Arc Raiders, but if it's there, it's got to be mild. And there are mild examples, but there are extreme examples. But let's continue through this a little bit more. When I was growing up, games were designed to be fun, not manipulative. They didn't have literal behavioral scientists and psychologists on staff trying to rewrite my brain. That is very, very true. And this is something that he goes on towards the end of the video to really stress to us. It's that you vote with your dollar, sure, but you also need to start calling this stuff out. And that's something I think I'm going to do a little bit more in the videos that I post. And like I said, I've already done it with a game like Valorant in particular, which I do not like their monetization and how much everything costs. Again, I argue that everything is extremely inflated, overpriced, and when you throw FOMO into that, you've got people dropping fat stacks of cash that should not be doing it. And at this point, especially if you're an adult, you're more to blame. But the other side of this issue is that a lot of kids are playing these games and they're being forced to undergo all of these behavioral and psychological attacks from these game developers with these very, very powerful dark pattern psychological tricks. And that is something that needs to have a black light to shine on for sure. Let's look at a few other quotes. He defines dark patterns as a design that deliberately manipulates user behavior, usually get those users to spend more money or engage more than they intended. And in the video that he posts, he goes through so many different examples. One that I thought was pretty interesting, let me see if I can find it. Right. Wilson points out UI traps, offering an example of a buyable upgrade that unlocks more buyable upgrades of the same type, potentially leading players to spend more money that they thought they need to in order to max something out. Another thing, aside from that example, another thing I've noticed is that when you go to a game like Overwatch, for instance, and say, for instance, you want to buy the Battle Pass, right? Or any other game. You want to make the purchase, and it's X amount of coins or whatever it is. But you can't get that exact amount from money into their fake currency to then buy the thing. You have to overspend slightly and have a little bit left over to spend on something. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But then you're able to buy the thing that you originally wanted to. That is another form of dark pattern for you to overbuy the thing to then buy the one thing that you wanted to buy. That is an issue because then you have left over and then you can spend it on something else. But maybe that's something else you want to spend on. You just need a little bit more, so just throw up another $5. You're falling into the trap. It is just that easy. It is just that simple. So I agree completely with this. And let me see if I can find another one. Players who are conditioned to be logging in every day do it not because they're excited to play the game. This is very true for games that have login bonuses or login things where you have to log in every single day and you get like a piece of gear or something, but because it feels like brushing their teeth is just something they have to do. He goes on in the video to give an example. He and some friends were like out camping somewhere. Dude walked like 6 kilometers to be able to get a signal to log into his game to get his rewards. Like that is some next level conditioning that I think is just insanity, absolute insanity. You cannot disconnect from it for that long period of time. It's just, that's just painful. Like he gave that example. I'm just like, dude, I totally see it. I don't think I would ever do that. I have played games that had that sort of mechanic, but I don't think I would ever go out of my way to walk so far to try to get a signal to log into the game. Nope, never. But someone out there is doing it, and that's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Another quote, I deeply know about all these tricks and still find them affecting me far more than I am comfortable with. So this is awesome for him to point out that not only is he part of the game developer side where he's seen all these tricks and probably implemented some of them, again, on a mild stake, which I think is kind of fine. You know, here's loot boxes. You don't have to buy them. Like a game like Overwatch. You can earn them, and then you can open them. You can also buy them. You can buy them in bulk, save a lot of money by getting 50 loot boxes for a significantly discounted money price. I feel it. And then those skins don't matter in the sense of like power or anything like that, purely cosmetic, so you could do them if you want to. There is a sense of FOMO to an extent, especially for in a seasonal event where especially like a winter wonderland sort of event. You're never going to get those skins again until maybe the next winter, but there's going to be completely new skins, and those old skins you'll never get unless they do a new event, and it just snowballs from there, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's nice getting his take from this, but also imagine what it's doing to kids who are incredibly vulnerable to the constant bombardment of gambling, compulsion, addiction, loss aversion, and anxiety-inducing dark patterns that these games contain. Absolutely 100%. And this does not get looked at, I think, nearly as much as it should when it pertains to the kids, because the kids are most important right there. We do not need them developing super nasty habits when it comes to these dark patterns, especially to the gambling and just the compulsion, the loss aversion, the anxiety-inducing dark patterns like that. no one, especially in their teenage years, needs to undergo stuff like that. Absolutely not. So, that's pretty much the bulk of this article. He, over the course of his entire video, he doesn't specifically point out, I think he does for like a few games, but I wanted to make a list because I was curious who does what. So I hit up Perplexity as well as I don't know what Brave's AI generated search engine is, but Fortnite is one for sure. Diablo Immortal, Star Wars Battlefront 2, absolutely, you guys remember those days. Mortal Kombat 11 and SimCity 2013. I don't remember the SimCity one, but we all remember Star Wars Battlefront 2. We all do. That's a big reason why it kind of went away for a time period and then came back, and we can actually get those, what are they called, star cards for each individual character and not be at a loss compared to early on in the game's life cycle where you essentially had to buy. It was pay to win. It was pay to win. No other way to look at it. And that is a dark pattern, 100%. So I hit up Perplexity to give me some examples of the dark pattern and which game has them in particular. So pay to win mechanics, like we talked with Star Wars, but a game like Clash of Clans for sure, or FIFA Ultimate Team. I have no idea on the FIFA bit. You guys might have to tell me on that, but I assume as much, but we all know what pay to win is. So loot boxes and gambling elements. That could be something like Overwatch, but I would say that's more mild than severe. And loot boxes, especially in a cosmetic nature, I've always felt are, completely tertiary, just completely outside the scope of the game. The more important thing was actually playing it. If you had a cool skin, awesome. If you didn't, oh well, move on with your life. FIFA, loot packs, again, I have no idea. But the biggest, I would say, culprit of this would have to be Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike, you've got, again, all the content creators opening up loot boxes, opening up hundreds of them, like with Tim the Tatman and Nadeshot recently in that whole fiasco. Entertaining, to say the least, but nonetheless, how many people actually dropped money they should not have dropped to try to open loot boxes because it looked like a fun time. I might get a skin, a very good skin. I might get a knife. I'm going to open up some loot boxes. Should I have spent that money? No, probably not. So, biggest culprit, I would say, in the gaming sphere is Counter-Strike when it comes to loot boxes and all that stuff. Bad, good, that remains to be seen. But again, kids asking their mom and dad for money to open loot boxes, no. Should never, quite honestly, should never ever be a thing, especially for cosmetics. I'm just putting that out there. Artificial scarcity. This is probably one of my biggest irks with gaming. There is no scarcity with items, with electronic items, with stuff like that. There is no such thing as scarcity. Scarcity, this is, like I said, artificial scarcity. It's not real. You can have an infinite amount of whatever, but the developer doesn't want to have that because it keeps prices up, depending on what it is, case by case basis. Offering limited time items on sales to push impulsive purchases. Exactly. Common in Fortnite, Genshin Impact, and numerous gacha games. We feel that. Forced or coerced spending. Sure. Creating situations where spending feels necessary to progress, avoiding punishment or remove disadvantages, such as in Candy Crush Saga. I haven't played Candy Crush in a minute, probably since the first iteration of it, but yeah, for sure. Like, you can only play a game for so much until it basically says no more, but you can spend money to play more. Exactly. And some pay-to-wait freemium models. Especially in the early Facebook days with those pay-to-wait games where you've got this, like, farm that you're doing whatever. I forget the name of the game, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But this, like, farm game that you're building, you got all the individual things, and then for like the first 30 minutes, you're building up one, and then you can't touch it anymore for like an hour, but you can spend money to reduce that to like 5 minutes. Nope. Drop those like a bad habit. Absolutely. Just the worst sort of game model I could ever see. Obfuscation and misleading UI. This is a huge one. There was one dude. Some of you guys may recall this. This irked me something fierce. What was the... I'm spacing on the name of the game, but Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMORPG, right? So I have zero idea why this was a thing, but in an MMORPG, you have your UI and you've got all your bars for all your items, for all your abilities, whatever, on your action bars all over the place. A game like WoW, you can have 2 on the right, 2 on the left, 2 on the bottom. You can have like as many as you want. You had to pay money to get extra bars in that game. I think they got rid of that sometime later on, but very early on in that game, you could not do it. I think you had to drop money, not specifically for that, but I was doing a free-to-play model, but if you did more of a pay-to-play model, you could do that. But nonetheless, that was something preventative from free-to-play, was the amount of bars you had in your... Stop playing that game immediately. I was like, nope, sorry. I am not playing that game because I could not have, as you level up and you get more items to use to have just on standby, healing items, whatever, or more abilities for your character because you're leveling up, you essentially could not do any more because the bars were gone. You ran out of room. And I had abilities and items that I needed to have on there. Nope, stop playing the game. Most annoying thing I've ever seen in an MMORPG. Stupidest thing in the world. Or make an opt-out difficulty. This is seen across many mobile and free-to-play games, often through tricky menu layouts, pre-ticked boxes, or intentionally confusing options. Yeah, obfuscating and misleading UI for sure. Lowball Labyrinth Debt, for example, in Animal Crossing New Horizons. I thought this example was interesting, but in Animal Crossing New Horizons, the player is welcomed and soon confronted with debt that requires grinding or spending, a tactic that can nudge continual engagement. You have a debt that you need to pay off, some sort of obligation that you need to perform in the game. This is, again, more of a mild thing, but nonetheless, this is a psychological trick to force players coming back to play the game, is that they've got debt that they need to get rid of. I thought that was a very interesting thing to point out, and it's also a very true thing to point out. I bet you that drove people to keep playing the game. Not only finally new Animal Crossing, because that was another reason for New Horizons and why it popped off at the time, but yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that. Habit formation and addiction loops. Designed reward cycles, daily tasks, and variable ratio reinforcement to foster compulsive play. Games like World of Warcraft, Candy Crush, and Clash Royale frequently use these methods. Designed reward cycles, daily tasks, and variable ratio reinforcements for compulsive play. For sure. So, for instance, games that have like daily tasks where every time that you log into the game just hits you with a list of things that you can do, have to do. It takes like 5-10 minutes out of your day to do it, but it seems more like a chore and something you're that you compulsively have to do. You wake up, you got to boot up your computer, turn on that particular game, and just like, hey, I just need 5-10 minutes, got to do my daily tasks, and then move on. I remember the wife playing, I can't remember the name of the game off the top of my head, another gacha game. All the girls are playing it. You guys may know what I'm talking about. But I remember her telling me, it's like, I'm just logging onto my computer for like 10 minutes to do my daily tasks, and then I'm moving on with life. That sort of compulsive behavior is definitely an issue. And then finally, loss aversion and punitive monetization. Threatening or inflicting loss of progress, characters, or items unless players pay to save them, found in some mobile RPGs and social games. I feel like the biggest culprit of these dark pattern psychological tricks comes from mobile games. And there's a reason why I never play them, for sure. I feel like I've definitely noticed a lot of these tricks. I'm definitely going to consider, I'm going to use dark patterns from now on to indicate exactly that. A sort of psychological, deceptive trick that developers use in their games to force retention. Dark pattern. And I'm going to call it exactly that because they feel unethical. Now, again, that's not all of them. A game like Overwatch, where it's just cosmetics, mild. Dark pattern, sure. Loot boxes, maybe. If pushed in the wrong direction too hard, becomes an issue. And how does it influence the kids? I think gives us a better idea of whether or not they should be considered not only a dark pattern, but also something that needs to be looked at and probably taken out. 100%. Like, kids just need to see a game and play it based off its merit. And, definitely depending on the age of the kids and what kind of content they can be forced to undergo. Like, gone are the days of those Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobbies where you just got people saying just the wildest things, and you'll have kids in those lobbies that are picking up all of that. But in today's day and age, the kids need to be monitored because there's way too many things out there that are specifically targeting them because they are a weak target to all the psychological tricks, all that stuff. We don't need to go into the details of it. You guys can know exactly where I'm going with it, especially with the Roblox thing. So Yeah, no, solid article, solid piece of information to bring up, and something we definitely as a community need to take a look at and start calling out a little bit more. So I'm definitely going to be doing that and focusing more on, I guess, the merits of the games that we play. Like you said in the article, like you said in this video, games should be fun. I should be coming back to a game based on its merit because of its gameplay loop, and that's it. The monetization, the login rewards and all that stuff, all the other tertiary things that make the game seem more appealing need to be discussed more often, and honestly need to get deleted straight up, because logging into a game and playing a game based off those and not the game itself, we all know exactly what this feels like. I know exactly what this feels like. Like, I want to say I was immune to this, but I really wasn't, depending on the game. I don't play any of those games anymore, sure, because I broke myself out of that, because probably I failed in one of those loops and it felt bad. I was like, I'm never coming back to this game again. Moved on with life. So, you know, we just need to be more aware of these. And again, I don't think all of these dark patterns can go to the extreme, but they can. And yeah, it just takes some wherewithal to and some discernment to see them and to completely avoid them. And especially if that is the core principle of the game, then yeah, I'm leaving it alone. And I get that feeling, especially from a game like Valorant, to be completely real. Fun game, 5v5, first-person shooter, but a couple things about the game, and specifically the monetization, that just bugged me, that I just couldn't find a reason to ever return to, and it just wasn't fun anymore. The gameplay loop became repetitive. I didn't feel like grinding rank on the game. And on top of that, honestly, the gameplay started to get a little annoying, to say the least, with all the different characters and all the different abilities. It was kind of throwing me for a loop. So a game like that, I just kind of stayed away from. But there's plenty of games out there, and be sure to let me know in the comments down below which games you guys have noticed had those sort of dark patterns, and you guys are just like, nah, I've had enough. I want to move on and do something, play something that rewards my time and effort a lot more than a game like that. So be sure to let me know. But with that, dudes, that's gonna be it for today's video. Hope you guys got a little bit of info out of this, a lot of useful value out of this. I know I did, for sure. Out of all the articles that I've been reading recently, I thought this one was actually pretty informative. So again, I'll leave a link to this article as well as the video from I'm never going to remember people's names. Chris Wilson. Very good video. I definitely recommend you guys check it out and get an idea of what he's talking about. But yeah, with that, dudes, I'm out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I appreciate it. If you guys liked the video, be sure to give it a like and be sure to sub for more. I will see you guys tomorrow for another one. Until then, I'll see you guys later.